I think we're up.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody to Why Your Marketing Didn't Work, how to use your results from last year to make this year better. This is going to be a good one, and we've all learned a lot of lessons. Last year was interesting to say the least. So,
So many
super excited to
lessons.
have you all here for our busy webinar. We do these every month. We'll give you more details. We've got a couple of really great ones coming up in the next couple of months. I'm super excited for our content this year. But let's get started by introducing ourselves. I'm Dave, and I'm the president of BusyWeb, and I've been doing this for a long time. Joining me, of course, is the one and the only Trygve Olson. How you doing, Trygve?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Dave. I really got to take a new picture then. Good Lord. Look at that.
Been fantastic, sir.
Thank you. Well, starving yourself just to look beautiful isn't a healthy idea, but I keep trying anyway.
I hear it's de rigueur now.
Yes. Yeah.
All the cool kids are doing it, so
Hmm.
that's for staying ahead of that. And you're half the man you used to be. It's amazing.
Quite literally.
Good. Well, let's talk about what we're going to go through today first. First, I wanted to do a brief reality check with everyone and just kind of give ourselves a little bit of grace because I don't know about the other attendees on the webinar if you're watching live and nodding along silently, but man, 24 was one heck of an interesting year for everyone. There was a lot of news, there was a lot of wildness, and so we're going to talk through what that all meant and what we can learn from it. We'll talk about how to benchmark what you did last year and how to pivot that into tactical moves and an action plan. So, as usual, this is intended to be a working session as much as a live presentation. So, for the folks that are attending, if you're watching live on YouTube or if you're watching live on the Zoom today, please feel free to ask questions, note in, and tell us what you think or if you have something that pops up that you want us to cover.
Well,
This is
I see you got AI there, Dave. Is that a thing now? I heard about that.
AI, yes. There's a you may have heard about it a little bit, especially if you've tuned in at all to any social media or anything in the
Yeah.
past.
It's
So
it's not just a Paul Simon fandom.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot there, and that's actually changing the game a little bit too. So that's one of those exciting things that we're keeping our fingers on the pulse of, on the digital robotic pulse of, I guess, to go in. So I think that kind of gives us a brief overview, and I want to get into the meat because this is where it gets exciting. And so let's talk about a reality check. And Trygve, you mentioned AI. I fired up ChatGPT for that for this graphic. I said, "Woman in a New Year's party hat, measuring her computer screen," because we're talking about measuring your past year. I think it came up just a little bit overly blissful. It does make me feel a little better
I
that
think
she,
she's happy that 2024 is over.
yes. You may note if you're sharp-eyed that she has six fingers on one hand and three on the other. So it is definitely an AI picture. But hey, she's celebrating along with us. So
I
some
think
some
everybody is universally happy that 2024 is over.
I agree. There was so much that happened. And I want to go through these in a little bit of the impacts to marketers. But uncertainty, of course, with the news flip-flopping every single day and big things from floods to hurricanes to doors popping off on planes and nobody knowing what's going to happen. Yeah, I didn't even remember that tanker, or not the tanker, but the container ship that toppled the bridge.
Oh, in Baltimore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was last year. It
I
seems like
think
100 years
wasn't
ago.
last year. I remember there was a day where you were just inconsolable. Wasn't that when the tanker trunk with all the Porsches in it fell into the Atlantic too?
It's a little tricky. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It wasn't. I'm not quite in my career yet where an order of mine was on there, but it sure would be fun to do that someday. Um, Everything had updates to their algorithms. So if you saw changes in your SEO results and your rankings, you are not alone. As a matter of fact, half of the people that responded to the registration, said that SEO was a challenge for them in the past year. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The little thing that we keep mentioning, and that's 3 bullets down, AI is having an impact on that. And so we're seeing some of that. However, the good news is that that's not really changing our tactics much for the good, true content driven white hat content. The little hacks that people keep using to try and rank better, those are the things that Google's playing whack-a-mole with. So if you're just creating great content and being helpful and useful to your audience, you're not seeing the impacts. There's a lot of privacy changes that have come out. Apple keeps tightening down the screws, and actually the EU is now spending a fair amount of time helping Apple or forcing Apple to continue tightening those screws.
Giving them the opportunity to screw tighten
Yes, yes.
with a gun to their head.
Them an encouraged way to grow and change and pull things back. Um, and explicitly around like how some of the AI things are being used. And if your content is going to be used and used as a training model. So that was interesting. Of course, all the AI stuff people are now using and S or AIO, which is getting very close to EIAIO. So old McDonald's going to
Like
have
the Tony Danza. Oh, hey, hey, oh.
AI. That's just straight up changing, and people are typing things into ChatGPT or Claude to get answers now. And so everybody kind of pivoted, and Google in particular is struggling with that. And their Gemini tools are pretty good, but there's still a lot more noise in search. It's kind of back to the old West days when Yahoo was battling and Google was doing some stuff and still building things out of Legos. And then, of course, lots and lots and lots and lots of noise. So you couldn't go to any news outlet. You couldn't open up your email or your browser without being assaulted by, regardless of your political leanings or whatever, it was a noisy, noisy, noisy year with people screaming at each other, lots of hard feelings, high temperatures. And that's just not a great space, especially in B2B, because people like to feel sure in their content choices, in their customer and in their business. And when there's uncertainty and noise, that makes your job as a marketer very hard.
And
Trigby, when you were
it's
dealing,
not it's
yeah,
noise that I don't know that it even covers because it's a word unto itself, and it's a cacophony. Yeah, that was the word I was going to use. It's we are now constantly being bombarded from every different angle, and everybody's using every possible idea on angle on how to monetize anything they can, while simultaneously trying to provide a unique customer experience, while simultaneously also uh, giving the world over to the robots to make their lives easier. And it's exhausting to just even enter the world today with all the things that are going on. And the other thing that what we saw is the rise of alternative media, and how a lot of what the Trump victory was pointed to was the amount of podcasts that he went on.
Mhm.
How many people have a
Yeah,
podcast? We have a podcast, so everybody's got a podcast, and how it really that's a changing landscape unto itself. So it's I'm appreciative of your reality check here, because as we're trying to figure out what did we do wrong, it's also important to realize that everything was shaking at one time. It's like
right.
those old the old videos of the ships where everything's suddenly running from one side to the other to the other to
Yeah.
the other.
Mhm.
It was everybody's basic life in marketing in
Right.
2024.
And I saw a sticker on someone's laptop that kind of summed up what what this last year felt like, and that was marketing is like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire and the street is on fire and
And
everything's on fire.
everything's on fire.
So that's kind of where we're at.
While you're simultaneously telling sales everything's fine, just like give me more time,
Yes, yes, absolutely. So it's important to take stock and to figure out really how you did. And so there's a bunch of things that we need to look at and measure to set benchmarks to figure out what didn't work, and so that we can, double down on what did, and or to make smaller bets and pivot. And I want to talk about that for just a second here, because I think it's important that folks get the overall kind of ethos of what marketing benchmarking is really about. What you're trying to do is not to set a line in the sand and change things that didn't work, as much as you're trying to identify the things that really did work and leverage those first and prioritize those things, because it's way easier to get great results off of things that are already working. So don't forget that. And a lot of people tend to doom scroll and or doom report. And so you're like, oh my God, our blog didn't work, we need to completely retool our blog. Maybe blogging's not what your customers are interested in. Are your videos, did those do well? Did your advertising do well? What was it? So focus first on those.
Well, and a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, Dave, is the importance of planning and sticking to the plan. And so the reason why we led with the reality check is because maybe it wasn't you
Right.
at the end of the day. Maybe your plan wasn't bad. Maybe you did. This wasn't a question of things going wrong. It was a question of things not being as successful as you wanted them to be.
Right.
Thomas Edison, after he invented the light bulb, said that he didn't fail all those times ahead of time. He just figured out other ways to not make a light bulb.
Right.
So as we're looking at to figure out how do you do, it's important that that anybody who's listening to this also keeps in mind that the amount of effort you put in is laudable and needs to be considered as well. Because if you did all the things that you wanted to do, that's a success unto itself.
Right. Right. And it's important to, have data to work with. So everything that worked and didn't work is still a step in the right direction.
And that's a huge qualifier right there, is because as everything was so crazy last year, really trying to figure out what happened starts with actual numbers, not how people feel or not what people think. Everybody's got a sales team who's going to say, I didn't get enough leads. Well, that sure, nobody got enough leads ever.
Right.
Nobody ever gets enough leads. So what really happened in terms of benchmarking your success, and then how close did you get to it? That's where we want to start the conversation today.
Right. So in that method, or in that vein, there are four big things that I would encourage everyone to look at. And we're going to throw down some examples and give you a couple of links on where you can check these for yourself and your business. If you don't yet have these, if you're working with BusyWeb, you're about to, if you don't have these, but because we're retooling and updating all of our dashboards for our clients at this very moment. But if you haven't, and if you're needing some of that detail, we're going to be spending some time in the next couple of quarters looking at how to set up dashboards and what to do, and keep your eye on some of the email content that we're putting out. Because again, we're doubling down on being intensely helpful and useful to our best clients and audience. So you're going to see a lot of how-tos on some of these things. So things like dashboards and reports, very easy to do using some of the tools that I'm about to mention. But if you set them up right, they can almost be magical and give you stuff. And like Trivy, I know in your job running sales for BusyWeb, you're setting up dashboards for all of us sales minions.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is look at one page, and it'll tell me how well I'm doing and what I'm hitting. And
Yeah.
we'll be able to look at that in the aggregate at the end of the year and say, here's what marketing contributed to that. So it's huge. So let's go through these in turn. First, dashboards. When I think dashboards, I of course think HubSpot, but there's a lot of different kinds of dashboards that you can tap into. And I actually have a couple of screens of other dashboards that we look at inside of our marketing tools, because I asked our marketing leadership what they use and refer to. So sales dashboards, of course, help you identify your overview and your performance, how you're doing, what kind of leads you're seeing, what those qualified leads, how long it takes, how much you're pushing those deals along, and it can give you an idea as sales management on who's doing well or who might need more coaching, right? And Trygve, you're doubling down on this. Tell us a little bit about the dashboards that you're setting up.
Yeah, the value of a dashboard is really based on and a lot of times what one of the things that our clients struggle with is when we say, well, we'll set that up. Well, they're great. Well, what does that look like? Well, that means something different to everybody because understanding what is important to you and understanding how to see it quickly at a glance is really what the value of the dashboard is. So as all of these numbers are swirling about your business and all these numbers that could be important, could not be important, especially as we're trying to diagnose what can we do differently, the value of using tools like this is really critical to be able to see how one thing leads to the next, leads to the next. And we're big fans of HubSpot, which is why we have some HubSpot examples on here. And you can use a lot of different tools to do these kinds of things, but I think ultimately what your point here, Dave, is that really measuring what the performance is really the of it helps you diagnose what went wrong and what you could have done better.
Right. And you're going to hear AI a few more times in this talk, of course, but one of the things that you can now do in HubSpot is there's an AI report builder because Breeze, when it was announced in September of last year, they announced that you can now just go into HubSpot and say, tell me what my three best lead sources were last year or last month, or tell me how well Dave did in his dialing. Did he hit his quotas or whatever? And it'll actually pull up that report on the fly. So you don't have to flip switches all over the place. You can literally just talk to your happy little AI Breeze Copilot and get that information kind of on the fly. So that's super slick.
And I
Um,
think you keep talking about AI, and I think one of the things that I've kind of gone to is I have a little stable of robots, and almost everybody has a robot now that they want to have help you do your job better.
mhm.
And so I have all of these robots that are just dying to go that I can't find the time to unpack. So when you're talking about AI robot usage and agent usage, pick one and go with it and
Yeah,
learn with it and play with it and get good at it. Maybe your needs change. I mean, it's like a car, buy a Honda, you're going to be fine. Maybe a year from now you realize the next car is a Volkswagen, you might want to switch based on some functionalities, but a lot of them do approximately the same thing. It's just a question of which one fits best with what you need.
mhm.
I use I use one called Copilot because it's built into our HubSpot system.
Right. And it's honestly slick. And
Yeah.
every account or every version of HubSpot has it.
Hmm.
So let's dig into a little bit of the marketing dashboards and some of the things that we recommend. And this is direct from our leadership team. The biggest things are, like using tools like Google Analytics. This is a free tool that gives you all kinds of great stuff. So if you're not using your Google Analytics and if you're not connected up, one word of caution, if you have HubSpot Analytics and because you're using HubSpot and you're using Google Analytics, they don't agree 100%. And so
Why is that? It's
we
a
have conversations about this a lot with our clients and what is this best source of truth. The difference between Google Analytics and HubSpot's analytics is the length of session mostly, where Google treats the session length a little bit differently. And so those numbers just get off. There's still the same amount of people visiting, but what you're seeing is that they're not being counted as much on one tool or the other. And so it's if someone visits your page for 3 seconds and leaves, that might count on Google and not in HubSpot. So you need to just be careful and keep track of and be cognizant of those differences. So you can say, okay, well, yes, and just kind of go with a change in trend on the same tool over same tool so that you're comparing apples to apples. So if you're going to make a decision, don't pick and choose or cherry pick between Google Analytics and HubSpot. You're going to want to say, okay, well, we saw a 13% lift in our Google data. And so that's the one that we're going to look at, and we want to make sure that we continue that.
It's
So
also important to recognize as you're talking about the differences in data is that
mhm,
a lot of this is interpretive. And so
mhm,
one of the things that people who do what we do here at BusyWeb, in order to get a gig, is they will cherry pick data in order to freak you the heck out
right,
and say that only they can help you fix it. So as much as what Dave said is absolutely true, the next step in that is being true to your data choice. If
right.
you're going to go with Google Analytics, that's your source of truth. And don't let anybody else tell you differently, because that's the path you've chosen, and it's the right choice for you.
Right. So the report that you see on screen right here is traffic by source. And our team used that to compare the buyer's journey or their purchase or conversion path to where traffic is entering the site. So you can see how many pages people are visiting, engagement, because Google, in this case, knows who that person is and they're tracking events now in the new Google Analytics. It's all based around events. So you want to look at if traffic is coming from a balanced mix of direct, organic, paid traffic, or if there's an area where you need to focus your efforts a little more. So are people staying on page a long time? Are they bouncing right off? Or are they going to view multiple pages? If you see a lot of people bouncing or visiting your website and then leaving again, you're either giving them too much data all at once, and so they don't need to do anything else, and then they just leave, or you're not giving them enough, and or it's not meeting the exact promise of what they clicked on. So if they're, let's go into real world. If they search for your product or service, you pop up in Google based on the title of your page and the information that Google's displaying. They click on that page and they don't see what they expect, they're going to leave, right? Or if your website isn't mobile responsive and they're on a phone and your website looks dumb or they just can't find what they're looking for, they'll just go, right? So you need to make sure that you're seeing those trends in that data. So the one to look at is Google Analytics traffic by source to get this data. And that's what's
Dave, I have
showing.
I have a couple of questions that I think would be helpful for us to talk about.
Ah,
In 2025, is a website even important anymore?
it is for different reasons than you would probably think.
Mm,
So there's a few different ways that people are getting access to information now. And I mentioned it before, but there's the SEO angle, there's the AIO or artificial intelligence optimization results. There's all kinds of things that people can do to find you. What's not going to change is the fact that you need to be as useful as possible to your audience in order to show up well. What is changing are the methods and how easy it is to get click credit. So if you have great content on your website that's usable and helpful and branded for you, even if you show up in ChatGPT, it'll say, BusyWeb says that you should check this out. Go to busyweb.com for more info. But it'll also give you the answer to that question. So you might never experience or interact with that person or that customer or that company. So it's important now to be a little bit more branded and intentional in making sure that you're not just hitting the keywords, but you're actually hitting how you impact those keywords. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. And I think that kind of leads to my second follow-up question is because as you talked about noise and you talked about AI a lot. So can AI build you a website that actually works?
Yeah, it's sort of. It's like having your neighbor's 7-year-olds write your website content. It's fine. It's probably going to look okay. It's probably going to have some Roblox characters in it or something, but it's okay. So an AI, you can go in right now into HubSpot on the free version of HubSpot and of course all the paid ones as well. But you can go in and say, I'm going to answer 5 questions and have AI build me a website. Takes 15 minutes. You're up and running. You've got it all, but you're gonna notice a few things, like the lady at the beginning of our deck today that had 6 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other.
Yeah.
That's the kinds of things that are missing. The language is a little bit off. It's not exactly in line with what you're looking to do. So what I like to do with AI and all of these things, yes, you can ideate and you can create, but use it as a starting point, not as the final method. It's like a car. You know, you can get places by car or by bus or by walking. This is going to get you there a little bit faster, but you still need to navigate the journey. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
just going in some random direction.
Yeah.
So,
I
oh,
I I would I want to disagree with you entirely.
beautiful.
The answer is no. AI can make you a website, but it's going to be riddled with the difference between just having a website and having a website that's going to make you money is critical. And so what I tend to tell people is, what if you and I are playing poker, Dave, is and I have two pair and you have three of a kind,
Mhm.
who wins, me or you?
If I remember right, and it's been a while, I think I do.
Yeah. So armed with that knowledge that three of a kind beats two pair, why aren't you going to Vegas? Just because you have it, does that mean that you're going to be able to make money at it? The
No.
answer is no.
No.
So AI isn't there yet. AI can do some of the bare bones framework, but at the end of the day, people are still craving that human interaction,
Right.
which is why looking at your traffic and understanding who you're talking to and are you talking to them in the way they want to be talked to is critical. And I think a website is more critical than ever because it is your thing that you can control.
Right.
And in all the noise and all the cacophony of everybody saying everything, this is your place to clearly state how you can help solve somebody's problem.
Right. Including training all of those LLMs, all of those AI tools on how
Yeah,
to tell people about you.
yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. So, first report that we wanted to highlight, Google Analytics, traffic by source. Next report that I think everybody should look at, you can get into this with the free version, SEMrush or SEMrush, their organic keyword report. So the organic keyword report lists every keyword or phrase that your site is currently ranking for on major search engines. So if there's is there appropriate blend of informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional intent bringing traffic to your site? So are you hitting on all cylinders, and are people coming to you for all the right reasons? Or are you not getting any transactional terms? So people are finding you for informational keywords, like in our case here, BusyWeb, that's very transactional. They know our name. St. Thomas Busy Entrepreneur. There was an article that was published about me a short bit back that links to me as a St. Thomas alum, and then entrepreneurship. Automatically make new contacts marketing. That's very transactional and intentional, right? So you want to make sure that you're hitting on all of those and look at them. And you can see that intent in those little icons. So the intent on BusyWeb is neutral. St. Thomas Busy Entrepreneur, that's informative. And then Quality Resource Group, that's C. What does C mean? I forget now. Commercial intent. There you go. And N for navigational. So they're trying to find things. So it's important to look at that stuff and see kind of what you have out there. So I would almost do this as for all of the snacks that you have available at your buffet, what kinds of things are people most likely to buy or most likely to nibble on?
Okay.
So SEMrush, organic keyword report, understand what people are going to you for. Campaigns, big wins. If you have HubSpot, you've got this kind of sewed up, especially if it's been set up by us, because we're big fans of making sure that we can prove our worth and what we're doing for our clients. But you should be able to see what has worked and what each bit of communication that you send out to your audiences is impacting. So you can say, we sent out a tweet, and yes, I know it's not really Twitter anymore, but you sent out a tweet, or you made a Facebook post, or you published something on LinkedIn or YouTube, and that impacted, $13 million in revenue because 17 people that bought a total of $13 million of things interacted with you via that bit of content. So that's pretty big, right? And to be able to check that. And then looking into your big wins. So on the bottom here, and you can probably not see it that well, but we have an overview of our best industries that we interact with. There's one little anomaly in here, marketing and advertise or packaging and containers, I believe, kind of goes up through the roof because we had a humongous deal that we worked on with some partners that we're actually still in the middle of working through. But all of these, if I didn't have that one, what do they call
Well,
it?
it doesn't make the graph as pretty because you think, oh, there's a clear answer, but when you dig
Right,
in a
right,
little deeper, you're like, oh, that's just $1 million deal as opposed to all the others.
right, right. And we tend to do smaller, more regular deals and work with people over the long term. But look at where you are and see what worked for you. If there were a couple of clients and you want to be more qualitative with this, who are the people that you would absolutely 100% want to work with again and or maybe even invite out to the bar, right? So are those kinds of people are the ones that you want to find more of. So make sure that you're looking at those wins.
And I think the really illustrative point here, Dave, is that you're trying to hammer home is that if you're not measuring, you really need to start.
Right. Right. My little adage when I was a speaker for Google was, if you're not measuring, you're not marketing. And
True. Very true.
it goes all the way back. You know, we're at the spot in our presentation today where we've outlined here's what you've done. Now let's figure out what we're going to do for the new year. Right. So what worked, what didn't work. We want to do more of what worked. We want to pivot on what didn't work. Again, don't obsess too badly on the things that didn't work because you've got a lot of riches in the things that did. So let's get back to basics for a minute. And everything that used to work should still work, at least to some extent. So having content on your website, yes, please, please, please publish helpful content. We mentioned before, all of this new AI optimized search, all of those AIs still need to train on something. They're looking for content and answers. And if you have content on your website, you will be part of that answer set. So you're increasing the odds, just like you were with search engines, to get found. So you still need to have content. You still need to write stories. You still need to have a blog on your website, if not to directly sell, to prove to the places that provide you leads that you're a useful, helpful resource. So keep that going. Same thing with email and inbound. I don't think email is ever going to go away. There are some mornings when I come in and I've got 250 new email messages where I wish it would, but email still works. And the idea that, you know, you can engage with people by having a very targeted list and actually getting to what those specific people are actually looking for, and then give them a choose your own adventure option to self warm up or to research around on your website, or even better, get a concierge where you're giving them active information based on what they're doing, if they're clicking or not. That gives them a ton of information. A little bit of a buzzword here, omni-channel. All that means is that you're hitting all kinds of different things. So you have video, you have a podcast, you have email marketing and social media, and you're doing a lot of different things and measuring to see what works, right? Making sure you have your customer profiles and personas set up right, and that you're probably adjusting them. At the end of last year / the beginning of this year, we spent a lot of time on our personas at BusyWeb, and we're already seeing a improvement in finding those exact right people because
Yeah.
we're being better at writing content toward their needs.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of being specific either. If you're talking, you really want to replicate a couple of clients, then you should talk to that persona.
Absolutely. And the entire point of personas is a blog post and an email or any of those things should almost feel like a letter to one of those personas. Like, dear Felicia, Here's what we know you need. And so building that out. And then don't forget to set KPIs or key performance indicators to make sure that what you're doing is actually delivering results. Don't get too aggressive. We want $3 billion in new business by the end of next week. Probably not going to help. But if you say we need 10% more of this specific kind of person, that helps sharpen your focus so that you're actually doing content to match what they're looking for. All right, so we got our basics. First thing I think you should do is find your quick wins. So we've had, if you're a subscriber to the podcast, you've heard Keith of Ella talk. He's got his own AI tool that's been pre-trained to be a marketing master, which is really interesting and fun. And so building high definition campaigns around content that is much more leveraged and focused can be a huge win. Look at all of your closed lost deals or content that you either weren't able to lock in, but maybe those needs have changed for that client. Maybe they went with a different vendor or partner, and now they're frustrated with that partner because they should have gone with you all along. And so giving them a holler, expanding with current clients can be an easy, quick win. It's 10 times easier to make another sale with someone that already knows and loves you versus someone that has never heard of you before. And then playing with AI tools. These are all the steps that go into the AI build of Ella. So you're creating assets via playbooks and content and creative briefs and campaigns. And all of that is through an easy question and answer interaction. So you're not just going into a blank chat GPT or going into a blank screen and saying, oh, help me, what do I do? It asks a bunch of questions. You put in content from your website or existing landing pages that are working, and then it sharpens all of those tools up for you and gives you real information and real direction and results to actually get more out of your marketing. And it's kind of like having Seth Godin in your back pocket. And if you don't know Seth Godin, Purple Cow, This Is Marketing, huge guy in the marketing world. You could have Neil Patel in your back pocket, big SEO guy. And you can just chat with these things and it'll give you the information based on what it knows from what it's culled from companies like us.
Yeah, it's fun too.
It is. It's interesting. Like what other quick wins should people look for, Trig?
I think what as you're looking through the analytics is number one, again, keeping in mind that maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was just the market. Maybe the people aren't listening to you anymore. So looking, I think as you talked about email campaigns, it's are your open rates going down?
Right.
That means people aren't finding you as interesting anymore, and that's something you can easily change. You can integrate video. You can tweak how you do it. You can do A/B testing. Those are things that you can. That's something that you can do that you're fully in control of, that you can change quickly.
Right on. So all this leads into building your actual action plan. So what
Well,
do
God,
you
now I got to count her fingers. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yep, she's got 6 too. They must be related.
Well, it's interesting. In this prompt, I said use the same lady. So they AI knew that she had 6 and 3.
Look at that, and she's got 6 and 3. How about that?
So she's now looking at 2025 and building her plan. But what you really need to do is focus on getting that content out there, segmenting for your individual or your ideal customer profiles, and then make sure that you're setting up more information to give you better visibility, higher resolution data, so that you can make those great results and those responses. So it's been the 2024 was a rough year for marketers in particular. 2025 is actually shaping up to be pretty good. There's going to be plenty of noise, don't get me wrong, but there's all kinds of better indicators. Everything that was a struggle last year is at least easing up, at least For me, that's what it feels like. And I don't know, you're talking to even more clients and prospects than I am, Trigby. I'm feeling a lot more just optimism, and people are ready to get back to work. And we're so done with being distracted and not getting a chance to do a damn thing.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's a good summary. I think everybody's scared and everybody's frustrated in some way or another, and everybody wants to just is cautiously, anxiously optimistic that things can get back to normal. And
right.
so, which means that for in 2025, it means fortune favors the bold, is taking
Mhm.
strong moves, doing the things that you always wanted to do but maybe held off on, because the people who are going to be ahead of the noise are the people who are going to be the ones who are innovating and talking to the people who want to be heard in the way that what they want to be heard.
For sure. For sure. So this is one of those things where, we do intend this to be a working session. Through our automation, we didn't we missed the link to people to get them here, but we have our attendees here. For the folks that are here, if you have specific questions, we would love to get those. You can either raise your hand if you want to just talk, or feel free to chat into the webinar chat if you just want to ask us. But while we wait for our attendees, and I'm also looking on YouTube and not seeing any comments over there either, but let's talk about what our registrants said didn't work for them. So,
Absolutely.
um, I think a lot of people came back to us with frustrations with Google this past year. In particular, our first bullet, they were talking about that they have a Google business profile and they couldn't change their business address. I actually helped them fix that. So I remember what that one was. CRM SOI follow-up. Um, SOI. I don't remember what SOI is. Trigger to you.
No, I
You want
don't.
some
So,
information, maybe?
uh,
Super ordinary.
yeah, we're supposed to be the experts here, so let's maybe just say automated follow-up and tracking
There
mailings. I think
you
the problem with Google is it's constantly changing. And so it to me, it almost advocates for having a buddy, somebody that you can talk to who's an expert, can tell you, can kind of help you get through that noise of what are the things I really need to be working on. And that's something we talked about earlier about, if you're going to use Google Analytics, pick your sources of truth, pick the things that are mattering to you, and then watch those, because things are going to happen up, down, and sideways. And to the particular question and asker's point, the changing your Google Business Review is monstrously hard, because in order to do that, you have to they're going to send you a postcard, which is a little tiny thing, and it isn't big and it isn't beefy, and it's got a 6-digit code on it. If you don't enter in that 6-digit code, they won't let you change anything. So it is a pain, and it is not you, it's just a pain. So
Right.
just keep on it and keep working it.
And I don't know if you noticed this, Trigvi, but it turns out that the U.S. Postal Service still does deliver small flat pieces of paper and not just Amazon boxes.
Wow, I don't know. I mean, we've had nothing but Amazon boxes at my office for a while, so it's a whole thing. What about getting engagement on posts?
Yeah,
What, because I think what's your thought process there, Dave?
yeah. The real thing that I'm seeing for people that are struggling with post engagement is they're either expecting too much from their posts, and we're talking social media posts as well as like blog posts, or they're too general. If you want engagement, you need to be laser focused on who you're trying to talk to. If I go up to you and I say, hey, what do you do for a living?" And then you tell me, "Well, I'm a plumber." And then you're like, "Okay, well, that's great. So let's talk about the twins." You're not going to get a whole bunch of interaction. But if I know that you have a very specific need, it's like, well, I'm really struggling with getting this one thing done. And then you can nerd out about that with that person and help them. That's an entirely different thing. So I would encourage folks that aren't getting engagement to revisit, dust off your customer profiles, your personas, and then write 5 things that that person needs to know or is going to help make that person's job better.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest something that's going to be a little terrifying to anybody under the age of 35, which is if you don't feel like your post didn't get much engagement, pick some people who follow you and ask them, call them on the phone and ask them why.
Mhm.
Because with all the algorithms, it's entirely possible that those people didn't even see it. And so, again, if you're trying to judge whether or not you were failing or succeeding, part of it is being seen. And if you're not being seen, then that's what the actual problem is, not whether or not you didn't write something that was clever enough.
Right. Agreed. So fundraising campaigns that didn't work well, website SEO. We talked a little bit about that stuff. I'd encourage you to just take a look. If you visit the SEMrush tools and certainly Google Analytics, there's some great data in there that you could probably mine to see, what's not working, what aren't you getting leads from on SEO. SEMrush is going to be able to tell you. Google's um, analytics tools, and oh man, it's been too long. But
Well, here's the thing about SEO is this is going to be my 15th year working in SEO, and anybody who tells you that you can make substantive change in 90 days in SEO, you should run screaming from.
right,
SEO is something that you invest in now that will pay off in a year. And so if you don't feel like you had enough growth, it doesn't mean you were doing the wrong thing. It just means you didn't have enough growth in the first year.
yeah,
So keep an eye on your competition, keep an eye on the keywords, making sure that you're getting the traffic you really want to get. And those things are actually irrelevant. One of the things that we do around here is we have a blog post called the Purple Monkey Dinosaur, which is one of our #1 search rankings, but it's completely useless when it comes to traffic because nobody looks for a keyword of the purple monkey dinosaur.
right,
So make sure that you're not focused just on ranking as much as ranking over traffic.
right. And I want to make sure that we give our folks plenty of time and maybe even a little bit of time back. So I'm not going to go
Yeah,
through one of these,
go
but
for it.
uh,
Lightning round.
lightning round. So using email for current donors and interested in expanding lead gathering. If you're trying to get with donors, you need to have a dedicated and targeted, and knowing those people, setting up specific interest-based tracks in your emails. That's just the fact of sharpening up who you're reaching. And so if you're trying to send out just your monthly newsletter, that's E for everybody. Boy, I'm old. You can not get, or you're not going to get a whole bunch. But if you're being very specific, and it's like, okay, for CFOs and CMOs, this is the thing that I need to say to them. Or for commercial paving customers, I want to say this, and that's completely different than residential, right? So you want to have different campaigns for each of those. Growing YouTube channels and gaining new audience, you just have to have content. And I would try shorter content versus longer. TikTok is theoretically going away. I'm still pretty bullish that the last second on the 20th, when it's supposed to go away, it's going to pop right back up again in some new guise or form because it's pretty big. But having shorts, YouTube shorts is a great way to make sure that you're still engaging on that super micro short destination, because long YouTube videos are great and they can be informative and helpful. But especially the younger you go in your audience, the more likely people are going to want to have just itty bitty little snacks. I'm talking 10, 15-second long snacks where people can see that. You can publish those up on YouTube Shorts. So I know exactly who typed this one in, and they're actually a television station. So having small little viral things and publishing those, like the winning game catch for the local football team, the local high school football team, putting that in your YouTube Shorts is going to get you new audience and more audience than just publishing the 3-hour long game.
And also using the social tools to do closed captioning. People like
Mhm.
video, but sometimes they can't listen to video.
Right. And the AI tools are so good. I mean, you can just load it up
Yeah.
on YouTube and it'll just do it. It's nuts. Leads that we received didn't turn into enough actual projects. You need to turn up the heat and, probably look at your sales process as well as your leads process. Our favorite anecdote about people getting great leads and not doing anything with them. We had our client that we were delivering just crushing leads for, just putting them in like 40 a month. And they were super upset with us and said, we're not getting any business out of these leads. We want to pause or stop the program. We asked them what they were doing with those leads. And drum roll, please, they were sending them a brochure. That's
Yeah.
not sales. That's not even marketing. So you need to make sure that you're actually taking care of your clients in order to convert them.
I just had
Okay.
a really frustrating experience along that same level
Oh,
I filled out a form online to get some sales coaching from a guy I follow online, and he had one of those free offerings, so I sent it, and
yep.
I got 3 phone calls this morning, all from local numbers. He's not local, so I finally just said, I answer is like, look, man, I want to talk to you, but I haven't even had the opportunity to open the thing yet. So you're calling me too quickly. Number two, you're calling me from a local number, which means I'm going to pick up because I'm in sales, which is disingenuous. Call
Mhm.
me back in 2 weeks once I've actually had the opportunity to review the material, and I'd be more than happy to talk with you because I'm interested in the content. But timing is everything when it comes to this kind of thing. But not actually connecting when somebody throws up a hand is also similarly criminal.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. If they're asking, my goodness, you should be there on the spot.
Yeah.
Generating qualified leads, we kind of talked about that, and live workshops and webinars, attracting bigger audiences. My biggest recommendation for you on that is that you actually set your automation to send the link to people when they register for a webinar. That tends to be a pro tip.
I
So
want
you,
to I want to skip back to the limited budget because I think there's an
yeah,
interesting point to be made here is that one of the things that we see and one of the reasons why we advocate doing strategic planning ahead of time is that is that every particular industry is completely cuckoo bananas depending for success metrics.
right.
We have some clients that need to be spending $10,000 a month before they see any sort of result in paid media. Some people can get away with $500 a month. And so working within the limited budget isn't just money, it's also time. But realize that this is a learned experience. And so the more effort you put into it and the smarter effort you put into it is going to get you results. But also thinking about where you're putting your dollars and making sure that they're being used correctly is a really smart enterprise as well.
Dig it. Absolutely agree. Well, that's pretty much it. And I want to just give a quick bump to our next couple of months. So February 5th, we've got From Friend Zone to Front Page, How to Win Google's Heart, which is fun. And then on March 5th, we've got Scale Smarter, use AI content remix to amplify your content production. If you wondered how we do all of those magical things where you make a blog post and then it cross posts out to 7 different things without killing your fingers or hurting your thumbs on your phone, we're going to show you how to do that. So make sure that you sign up at busyweb.com/events for all of those. So thanks everybody for joining and hanging out. It's been a delight. So lots and lots of good stuff here. I'm actually going to stop the broadcast because I want to make sure that anyone that's still on can still ask questions if they
Thanks
want.
for coming, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you.